Everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Knights Talk. I'm your host, Rob Leonard, and this fine-looking gentleman sitting beside me, the voice of the GMHL, the play-by-play voice of the Bradford Rattlers, the Bradford Bulls, the Tottenham Steam. Anybody else?
No, not yet.
Joe Todd is here. Joe, thanks very much for making the trip.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Since you had me on your show twice down there.
Twice. I had to get down here, so you kept bugging me, and here I am.
That's right. It's only fair, isn't it?
It's only fair, right?
It's only fair. And we had such a great time down there.
Oh, we do.
Come up and show you some Owen Sound and Meaford hospitality. So,
you know, driving up here was pretty incredible because we talked about fan support, that you have it, and also the community support. And I didn't really have it in perspective until I went past the Home Hardware. What's on the street signs, the lights, is home of the Knights of Meaford. So that's pretty incredible. I think that's a good job on the town, and of course, your coaching staff and owners, really good. It's good to have that.
Meaford loves their Knights.
It seems like it, yeah.
Okay, so the Knights had one game this past week, and it just so happens that the highlights we're going to show are between my Meaford Knights and your Bradford Rattlers.
Absolutely.
So they played Thursday night in Meaford. Big game. Let's take a look at the highlights from that one.
And they're not feeling very well, and some of the guys are playing tonight in spite of having it. So hopefully we'll get a good contest.
That's probably where I got my flu from, probably being on the team bus there a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Callum Queenan just
scores! That puck squeezes through. I'm thinking that was Kyle Stevens.
Do that.
Tough for the Rattlers when you got two of your top three scorers sitting in the penalty box. Here's Boudreau. Shot score! Derek Boudreau, the pride of Gatineau, Quebec. Here come the Rattlers trying to get it going. Puck comes in over the line. Brunberg scores! Rasmus Brunberg with a perfectly placed shot. Tonight they've managed just three. Now here's Ragnar Russ with a chance. Russ moves in. Shot! Ragnar Russ goes 5-hole. Backhands at home to give Meaford a 3-1 lead. Willie Vernon. Vernon over to Annett. See if Connor Annett can hit it. Off the crossbar. My goodness, there you go. The Knights of Meaford have won a super important game over the Bradford Rattlers by a score of 4-1. And as you can see, the Knights of Meaford won this game by a score of 4-1. Ton of stories to tell from this one, Joe. Prior to the game, prior to every game that we do on Rogers TV, of course, I go to the teams and I get their lineup changes and so forth. So I go to the Knights room and they've got 5 scratches.
The Rattlers had a few scratches that night too. Yeah.
I know. I went to see Sean Worth.
Timo Fav.
Timo Fav was there.
Oh, was he there?
He did play that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went to GM Sean Worth, and he says, I said, do you have any changes tonight? And he goes, watch this. He says, and he starts going bang, 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 bang. They had 8 scratches that night, and he explained to me that it's an assortment of injuries. 5 guys are going to be out until the playoffs start, but
Lindell,
three are done for
Noah
the season.
Little, he might be gone for the season. They are losing, not from injury, but they are losing Cole Jacobson, young goaltender, was struggling a bit, but learning a lot. He'll be back next year. So yeah, they're losing quite a few of their players. And you had a conversation with Lang the other night, and he went over to the Huskies. So I mean, it's a different team, but they seem to be holding their own, though.
That's right.
Not that night. You could have showed the one time we beat you, but no, of course not, right?
All right. So goal scorers in this game: Kyle Stevens, Derek Boudreau, Ragnar Russ, and Connor Annett would score for the Knights. Now, Connor Annett set the franchise record for points in a season that night. The original record was held by Mac Fleming, and that was from year one of the Knights.
Year one. That was a long time ago.
75 points. So a goal and an assist for Connor Annett gives him 77. So he now holds the title for most points in a season. And we got to mention Willie Vernon pitching in with 3 assists in that game. And one of your guys on the Rattlers also set a record that night.
Brunberg with 50 franchise record, so 50 goals. And pretty impressive kid. I mean, that's what they got to watch. I mean, come playoffs here, you got to watch that line for sure, but especially Broomberg from the side. It's a weird angle. He loves that angle, and he puts it in the net. Just the game that just passed there, they played the Bulls, and they won in overtime, and he got the overtime goal as well.
Right.
And he had scored straight ahead, which we haven't seen too often from him this year. He loves that angle, so it was nice to see a little different shot from him. But what a caliber player, as well as a net. I mean, if you look around all the league, I mean, we call it the parity season on Inside the GMHL, and we've got some caliber players in this league.
There's a lot of great players, and you talk about Brunberg. I remember him from last year, of course, but this year it's
different kid this year.
We've seen him
learned
a few times this year, and it's I'm shocked if the puck doesn't go in the net. If he's got a really good angle or in a good position, he's just been sniping from everywhere. But I believe the Rattlers are #1 in offense in the league this year.
That's right, but I think they're something like halfway down on the other end. So
like the defensive end.
Yeah,
that's right.
it's kind of a weird thing. Bob, brought it up to me. Bob Russell, the president of the GMHL, brought it up to me, and he says it's a funny stat. That's exactly how he put it, and it really is.
Yes.
But it shows you what kind of difference it's going to be, though, because they're not going to get away with that in the playoffs. It's going to be a whole nother ball game, or in this game, a puck game in the playoffs.
The old saying, you can score as many goals as you want, but
That's
you can't keep it out
of your net. Doesn't matter. So they got to fix that, and they've only got a couple games to do that. I mean, some teams are done. I think the Steam are done. I know the Civics have clinched the North Division, so they've clinched that for the regular season. But these few games, they got to really iron out the kinks, or there's going to be trouble. I mean, look at your team. I mean, it took you guys till December to get your team tweaked, but it's almost where you guys want it. But
that's right.
These couple last games is going to be the decider on how well you do in the playoffs.
Now, in this game as well, too, in my eyes, the story or stories of the game were the goalkeepers in this game. Mm-hmm. Although Josh Lund allowed 4 goals, he was the difference in the game, if there was a difference. Mm-hmm. Just a highlight reel, a couple of saves he made, glove hand saves that were just amazing. So, but on the other end, sorry, excuse me. Just getting over a bit of a cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack Edmonds at the other end wasn't to be outdone. Lund
great goaltender as well. Yeah,
and Jack Edmonds was flash leather at the other end. So,
see, Lund, Texas boy. I mean, young. He's got the height, which is what really the pros are looking for. So they're definitely going to be, scouting him for sure. But what a great goaltender. I mean, and that's been the story of this league this year too. The parity season, not just goal scorers. I mean, we got some of the best goals, but some of the best goalies in between the pipes.
Some really good stats this year.
Oh, absolutely.
TJ Sherwood coming back.
I called it coming back from the dead. It was he was counted out. He was completely counted out. And on my show, I did a segment called TJ Sherwood Back from the Dead because everybody counted him out.
Well, that's what I thought when I saw that Sherwood was out and then Jigavez was signed.
But he jumped right away back to pro. So
see, and I figured, you're bringing a guy in like that Sherwood is probably done for the season, but the Civics are very happy to have TJ
Well,
back.
Look at the heart of the kid. I mean, last year he could have been anywhere in the league beside the Steam. We know the Cinderella story the Steam had. He could have been anywhere in the league and been a #1 goaltender. But he decided, it's done in the college level a lot where they'll take a really good player and hold him back.
Right.
So he can really develop. And that's what this league's all about, is the development.
Right.
And they held him back, and he was under goaltender, drawing a blank here, but for the Steam, their #1 goaltender, he was kind of in his shadow, but he learned a lot from that goaltender. And he showed it this season. And then the heart to come back like that. And his first game back, shutout.
Shutout. Yeah.
Second game, won it.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of heart because you were counted out. He was completely counted out. He could have gave up. He could have really turned it around the other way because hockey's as much as a physical game as it is a mental game.
That's right.
And he came back with a big heart and did the right thing and came back with a vengeance.
All right, so playoff time just around the corner. It's not that far away.
Knocking on our door, absolutely.
This weekend, I think, pretty much wraps it up. So,
pretty much.
But there's still some teams have already clinched their spots.
Pretty much the North Division is.
We'll take a look at the
dry.
North Division standings right now. So 1, 2, and 3 actually are already decided there.
Yep.
With New Tech, Parry Sound, Muskoka. If you want to take over.
Yeah, and then you got the Rattlers just behind their tails, you know, and they've got some pretty big wins. They were the second one to beat the Civics this year, which a lot of people thought that wouldn't happen. It would have been another Cinderella season like the Steam last year. And why I'm comparing the Civics to the Steam, a lot of players came over from the Steam, as well as the Steam had a general manager, Ryan Wood, that's now an owner on that team. So big difference. And then Temiskaming was, like you said on last week's show, 10-game winning streak.
Right.
That was pretty incredible. And then we got Almaguin. They can't be counted out either. They're about equal with Temiskaming. That's why they're side by side there. And then, of course, you guys, since the Christmas break there, complete turnaround, completely different team. And that's why they're sitting in 7th. Bradford Bulls, they're another story. I don't get to talk about them too much on my my broadcast because we want to focus on the entire league. But this is a team that, you know, at the beginning just really couldn't seem to get it together, and you know, play better on the road.
The Giant Killers, aren't they?
They are the Giant Killers for sure.
They've knocked off New Tech a couple of times.
Perry Sound, South Muskoka, and it's been interesting. The season has been interesting. No. I think the most interesting season in 11 seasons with the GMHL's history.
So the Knights of Meaford play the Bradford Bulls twice more. All right,
yep.
So you couldn't have a better scenario coming down to the final weekend, because those two teams, as you can see in the upcoming games, it's an all Bradford last
might as
well
just get the team and you to just have a hotel room there and just stay around.
so
we'll find you some practice ice.
Bradford, the Bulls picked up a point last night. They were down 3-0 to the Rattlers,
and they came back. Like, it was incredible. That was everybody was on the edge of their seats.
The whole second period.
I did the play-by-play, and
Bulls,
you know. Grace Rodriguez, she's one of our timekeepers, been in the G quite a while, about 4 or 5 years, longer than me and you. Mm-hmm. And she just had her baby girl. So she had a baby girl, Kaylee, 5 pounds, 10 ounces, 19 inches, just itty bitty. And she was beside me, and I was trying to be loud and excited on the play-by-play at the end there, but had to be a little quiet because my little niece was there, so Uncle Joe wanted to be quiet. But what an exciting game, and Bulls really turned it around, and they picked up some players, but those players haven't really been a big difference.
Right.
It's their current players that have really been the difference.
Yeah, and their problem is, and their head coach and assistant coach or co-coach,
Doug Taylor
they
and
have said the problem all season
Telford.
long is discipline and staying out of the penalty box, and that showed a bit in the Rattlers game too, taking undisciplined penalties. And the last time they were in Meaford, same story.
Same story.
Near the end of the game, getting frustrated. I think it was Captain Quintos that took an unnecessary penalty behind the play. It was only 3-1 at that point, but they're young, they're learning. And
they are one of the youngest teams in the league, absolutely. Right. And they're an odd team. And the reason that they're an odd team is they play to the level of who they're playing.
That's right.
So that makes it very interesting, because you take a team like the Civics and they beat them, and then you take a team like, you know, Orangeville and they lose to them. And, you know, nothing to say bad against Orangeville. They put together a pretty good team. They just had some rocky things happen. But then they lose to them. So it was a very strange team to watch throughout the season.
Let's talk a bit about the, for people that aren't aware of the playoff system in the GMHL, I believe it's going to stay the same way as it did last year.
It's similar. So they got to play in to play off. So how that goes is basically, as Sean explained it, Sean Worth, that the 3 bottom teams, or 2 bottom teams on each side, because it's a little off balanced, have to do a little tournament before they can get in.
Right. So the top 7 teams, the top 7 finishers or seeds are guaranteed.
Yep.
But then the bottom 2 will play off in a little tournament to play against.
I think it's 2 on the north and then 3 on the south, just because it's unbalanced. But I'm not too sure on that.
And the winner of that mini tournament will play against the team that finished 8th to see who gets that 8th seed. So,
exactly.
Okay. So I'm going to make a prediction now from looking at the stats this morning and taking a look at games remaining and who people are playing against. I'm going to say that the North Division is going to stay exactly the way it is right now. The way it appears today. I think that's what's going to happen. But again, you call it the parity season, and you're absolutely right. You don't know what's going to happen. So the Knights have had the Bulls number all season long, but the
that
Bulls
could change.
are due. Right?
They're definitely due. I mean, they had the Rattlers had the Bulls number the whole season long, and then all of a sudden they almost win. They almost come back and win it. So we just don't know. So that's your prediction for that?
That's my prediction, is that the way it is right now is the way it stays for the end of the season.
And what about South?
South, do we have the
got-
South Division standings, Mark?
We have those.
Yes, we do.
Beauty.
Fantastic job, Mark. Thank you.
Niagara's obviously, like we know
1,
the
2
top
is
7.
decided.
Yeah, 1, 2. And then Northumberland, I don't want to say anything negative, but this is one team that's definitely struggling this year. Tottenham was definitely struggling. They've turned it around. And Tilsonburg's turned it around. So this is where it becomes really hard to predict because those 3 bottom teams have completely turned around. Tilsonburg beat Niagara.
Right.
5-3.
That's right. I remember that. Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, and then you got Northumberland. They're starting to come around, and they'll win and lose against Tottenham. But Tottenham's got some sharpshooters.
Okay, so the top 7 spots are obviously already keyed in. Everybody, but again, it's the only ones that are guaranteed are the top 2 at this point.
Yep.
Bit of a battle going between 6 and 7, 3, 4, and 5. Bit of a battle going on there. Not a lot of games left. So with this playoff format, we would see Tottenham, Tilsonburg, and Northumberland playing in a mini.
Yeah.
A mini.
That's why
series.
it's 3. Yeah.
And then that winner would play against Oshawa to see who gets that 8th and final playoff seed.
My prediction there is Tilsonburg moves on.
All right. And there's a former Knight of Meaford playing in goal there, Jesse Martell.
Yes, that's right.
Or
And
not
he
Jesse,
is
Jansen. Sorry,
Jansen, very good goaltender. And then, but as far as my predictions for beyond that, I think Niagara's definitely going to be in the finals. But a lot of people think Civics, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a toss-up.
You know what?
That's my opinion.
I've said it on your show.
But then again, the Ravens.
Now.
So Ravens, Niagara kind of are in there for that side. On the other side, we're talking a toss-up. I can't even put my finger on it.
I know I've said it twice on your show, but of course, I think the Knights, honestly, in my heart, and it's not just because I'm partial to the Knights, but I really think I still don't think they've hit that stride yet.
That's what I said. I said you
now.
got your team almost. There's a couple more tweaks to do, and one it is you guys are going to be dangerous, 100%.
So coming into these playoffs, but aside from them, South Muskoka, I've been impressed with those guys at times. I've seen them fast skating, hard,
and they're a bit of a giant killer too.
Great shooters, right?
Amazing shooters. Bill Fines would say some of the greatest shooters in the league, and I would have to agree with him.
Yeah.
And we talk about dark horses. I'm thinking Meaford, Ravens, and South Muskoka are those dark horses.
That's right. And you look at Carl Iden is now, I believe
he's got a record.
Top
he's
on
sitting
the
there,
top scorer in the league right now, I believe.
Yeah,
do we have the top scorers there, Mark?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There he is,
yes,
top,
Iden,
and then you in London. London, we can't count out either, but at the same time, I mean, they got a great team, but I still think it's those 3 as the dark horses.
Yeah, and you see Reagan, you've been bouncing around in there, but then you've got some rattlers in there, of course, the same 3 that have been there all season long, and in Tottenham with Grigentchev, he's having a heck of a season as well.
For sure.
And Des Louis from the Rattlers, how old is he? I think he's only 18 years old.
I think so, yeah.
Still young, so again, a ton of points. It's a high offense, league, of course, so. Yeah. So what do we got left? What else do we want to discuss, Joe?
Well, the big thing is the playoffs right now. I mean, South is the only one that's really that tight, and it's a couple games to make the decisions. The North's pretty much locked up. I think I agree with you there. And it's going to be interesting. I think everybody should tune in because with this being a parity season, these playoffs are going to be different than anything we've ever seen.
All right. Okay, so let's go to Meet the Knights. And our guest this week is goalkeeper, Jacob Adams. That's right. Thank you. We got a close ring, right? We got some fairly easy questions for you here. Let's get started. Now, you're a local fella, but what were your first thoughts of Meaford?
They're a good team. I was excited to get going with them and playing with the boys. Small town, though.
All right, awesome. What excites you most about being a Meaford Knight?
Probably being so young and playing with all the guys and just experiencing what older guys are experiencing.
Okay. And who's your favorite NHL player?
Carey Price.
Okay. Favorite leaky canoe meal?
Probably the wraps. Chicken wraps.
Wraps? I thought you might have went wings, but all right. If a teammate is going to play a gag on you in the dressing room, Who would you look at first?
Eric Lowry or Harley Haggerty.
Okay. And if you had to go to war, I hope there's never a war, which teammate would you want battling alongside of you?
Eric Lowry. He knows how to control a gun.
All right, yeah. Eric Lowry, good Pennsylvania boy, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're 15 years old, but talk about life after hockey, or will it include hockey? Or you hope it does, I'm sure.
I hope I go somewhere in hockey, yeah, but if not, we're gonna try and be a welder.
A welder?
Yeah,
perfect.
do deep sea welding.
Okay, and is there anybody you'd like to say hello to?
Just my dad that lives up here with me, and my mom, and my brother, and all that down in Curtis, in Oshawa.
Okay, thank you. And we want to thank Jacob Adams for taking the time to do that with us. And Joe, I had a fan today pose a question on Facebook. It was John McKay out of Meaford. And John's question is, and I'm not sure if we can answer this, but we'll see what we can do, John. Can you tell me how the league goes from 3 divisions of 11 to 21 teams in less than 2 years? How is this? Kind of hard to understand what he's saying here, but
I think I understand the question.
Basically saying that the league should be closed with a third of the teams gone. So. If you want to address that?
No, how it works is I understand. I mean, this is more of a head office question, but how I understand from just talking with Bob and Ken Gerard and Sean Worth, which isn't really part of head office, but he's a lot of my source for knowledge just because that's where I am, just like where you are in the Knights.
Right.
And we're trying to keep it competitive. The league's trying to keep it competitive, and last year was the only year we went 3 divisions. That was the only time we did it. So, I mean, you don't know if it works until you try it. I mean, and that's how it worked with how many teams we had. But, on the same token, teams, we can't make them stay. This is individual business owners. They have to make individual business decisions. So as far as that goes, that's the best answer I can personally give, because that is a head office question. But we're trying to keep it competitive, and we're trying to make sure that, well, we can't just hold their hand and make their decisions for them. It's their business. So if they want to fold their franchise, they want to fold their franchise. But we can't just say we're giving up on it. It's been 11 successful seasons.
Exactly.
So we just want to continue and move on. And Bob Russell has, and that takes real character. He said, I made a mistake, or the league's made a mistake with bringing X team, Y team, and doing that. We learn from our mistakes. And that takes a big person to say, I made a mistake.
Right. We
learn from our mistakes, and we're going to make it better.
That's right. And
so otherwise, I can't answer anything.
And as you said, again, I'm not speking for the league or anybody else, but just from being around GMHL or around sport, really, Sports, for that matter. You try it. It didn't work. So what? We go back to 20 teams. Add on a few more teams next year, give it a shot, whatever. But, I think it's basically the cycle of life, too. The strong will survive. And if you haven't got yourself set up, then, that's not the fault of the league.
No. And again, they're individual business owners. We can't
make their decisions for them.
We just, with that, once a team folds or anything or things have to change, we work with it. They work with it the best they can.
That's right. Okay.
I think they do a great job.
All right, playoffs around the corner.
Exciting.
Big games coming up.
Huge
Joe,
games.
Todd, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
up
for
and
having
doing
me.
this with me.
All right.
All right, and we'll see you at the rink. I may see you Wednesday night in Bradford.
Sounds good. We'll see how Bradford does.
Okay, for producer Mark Perry, for Inside the GMHL, voice of the GMHL, Joe Todd, I'm Rob Leonard. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time on Knights Talk.